This fall, 2 students from the English department won President's Faculty Student Collaborative Research Grants.
I approached Sheila last semester with this idea that I wanted to do an independent research study over Jane Austen. I have done 2 different classes over Jane Austen during my time here. One specifically looking at comparing the literature and the film, and one just looking at her works in general. But I wanted to just do more exploring. So basically, I'm looking at both Jane Austen's juvenilia and some of her later unfinished works. Both are the only Jane Austen works I have not read yet.
I'm doing an English thesis, honors thesis, and I'm looking at how mind and body is explored within literature. So typically there's a couple different theories, prevailing theories. So you have like the Lockean, is your unconscious different than your conscious, or the Cartesian mind, body, ghost in the shell kind of esque, where your mind is totally separate from your body because your body is just a machine. I was really interested. Those are very philosophical ideas, and I was interested in how this played out in literature.
I'm just starting volume 3 of the Juvenilia, so this is kind of like what I call my first read through. If a lot of people can read Jane Austen and understand what's going on fine, but I'm trying to really dig into like the nitty gritty of it, which if you look at the back of these books, there's like notes for the pages. So it's like if they mention a specific carriage, they'll say how many people it can hold, how many horses would it take to go through it. If they use any name that they mention, they're like, here are the other uses Jane has used it in her literature. Here's how popular it was during that time. So now what normal people do when they look for any Jane Austen works is like looking for those details. But it takes some time to like both understand the story and what's going on, and then understand those details go with it.
I wanted to first look into the representation of the body in literature, just the body. And like, how do you take a physical person and represent it on a page? Because you kind of can't, like, by virtue of what you're trying to do. So then that comes into identity / mind and the spirit and the soul, all those different words and terminology for it. So I really was curious about looking at how can there be, is it a ghost in the shell like Cartesian logic says, or is it more Lockean where it's like, what if you're a different person when you're asleep? And that's when I kind of started building up this idea of like, who am I? Like, how would I describe myself on paper? How would other people describe me on paper? And that's 2 separate situations. So you have the social body where it's like how other people perceive me, how I'm being read, and how I perceive myself, my more internal thoughts and stuff. And that really shows, if you've ever read an autobiography versus a biography, you're going to see the differences there. So what I'm interested in exploring is how literature uses the body as a metaphor of the mind.
Both Emily and Cheyenne's projects are sponsored by Professor Sheila Wong.
As we were talking through and about these projects, I immediately recognized how interesting and innovative each one of their ideas was. So when the announcement for the President's Student Faculty Collaborative Research Grant program came out, I immediately urged each of them to apply to it.
Sheila was one of the first teachers like at Webster. This was my 2nd semester that she kind of just blew my mind. She was just so smart and intelligent on her subject.
I'm very excited to be working with Sheila. She's been really great because I went to her originally because she taught a medicine and science and literature class that I didn't take, unfortunately, but I was interested in taking, and it kind of evolved into this.
It's just like for me a really fun time. We meet once a week. We go over what I read that week, and she kind of helps me. It's more me talking than her, because I'll say what I liked about the stories, what I thought was interesting, and then we kind of look at it, because as she kind of taught me, like, looking at the things that you found silly or weird is kind of a good place to start.
I was really gratified too that other faculty members across the university really understood and recognized the important undergraduate research that's happening in the English department.